Yeah, thank you. Since that randomly stopped during the last one. For Monday, January 23rd, 2023. First order of business is approval of minutes from January 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Monica, second by Mr. Walker. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed. Motion passes. See, I'm still struggling. Any special requests or continuances? Okay. Any old business? Saying not any old business from the floor. All right, new business is PC 2022-097 Fire Station 93 primary plat, if I can talk. Petitioner is the city of Greenwood. This is a public hearing, so all those presenting in favor will have 15 minutes, all opposed 15 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes each for rebuttal. All those wishing to present for or speak against, please stand and raise your right hand for the oath.
Do you swear not penalties of perjury? The testimony from the truth to the best of your knowledge.
I do.
Okay, were you present? First,
I'll let the
let him. If you'll approach the podium and give your name and address for the record, please.
Matt Haley with DS Engineering, we're 4275 North High School Road, Indianapolis. As stated, the petitioner is the city of Greenwood, and the purpose of this plat is essentially to carve out the area around the fire station that was recently built there at Custer Road to separate the rest of the property, so the rest of the property can be used at a later time for development or other purposes.
Have any illustrations?
Yes, I've got some.
Pass them around.
we're attached to the staff report.
That's all. Let's just- If there's any new.
No, this is the same. This is
Okay.
There's nothing new.
I will just clarify for future development, there's no known plans or future development proposed at this time. The reason we have a proposed block is so that in the future, you don't have to go back through the primary platting process or replat the primary plat. Then you can go forward with a secondary plat. So if there was ever another, for example, a building corporation or something that needed to have its own parcel or be platted out, we could divide the block without having to go through the process of the primary plat, the newspaper notice, public hearing, etc. Since we've already defined that it can be divided.
Appropriate to answer the question.
Well, first we got to see if there's anyone against, which I don't think there is.
That's what it looked like.
Anything else to add? No. Okay. Close the public hearing. Okay.
No, I just was gonna ask, was the intention that the city of Greenwood could potentially use that for other city purposes? When you talk about development, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, but
Yes, I mean, typically like a city building for financial purposes is put in a building corporation. I have not received any final, plans, but I do know that it's been talked about or desired to be potentially a park. But I think just allowing for the block to have multiple lots in it, it doesn't paint you into a corner. If something were to happen in the future that none of us might be able to foresee, you have the ability to divide that land then. I will say to your question, if like say and this is, I'm just making things up, a residential subdivision or a commercial subdivision with shopping centers and such were to go in, This is zoned for open space or OS. It would need to go through a zone map change or receive some type of a use variance. And that would have a public hearing involved. There are some uses that can go into open space that are development uses. An example might be like a church, or I think some medical buildings are allowed to be there. But it's a very limited list. So any, like a residential subdivision would need a zone map change and a public hearing.
This is just a point of curiosity on the design. I see at the north end of it, stop 18 road, is that's actually gonna go out that way?
Don't just need that.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think stop 18 does show on our future thoroughfare plan map. I think ultimately someday the city might like to see it connect from Honey Creek to Averett, but there's some hurdles with that, including Freedom Springs.
There's a fairly popular part.
Yeah. Actually, throughout in that park, there is actually already culverts over the stream where the road could possibly go in the future.
Yeah.
So, but I know there's been some pushback from the lead residents of the neighborhood. There's no plans, there's no immediate plans.
I'm just curious because I saw it.
Yeah, but we don't want, again, same thing, we don't want to pin ourselves in the corner and have to come back, try to get right away from ourselves at some point in the future.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? If not, we have a motion that's been prepared.
Concerning docket C 2022-097, Alright plat, Greenwood Firehouse 93. I move to approve the proposed primary plat of Greenwood Firehouse 93 submitted by VS Engineering on behalf of the city of Greenwood, docket PC 2022-097. Subject to the technical review committee condition that all staff comments are addressed because the primary plat complies with the standards in the Unified Development Ordinance Subdivisions Division, and to direct the president to sign on the commission's behalf a notice of determination and written findings regarding the approval of the primary plat as prepared by the planning director.
Second.
Excuse me, motion by Mr. Walker, second by Monica. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, raise your right hand. All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Next up is PC 2023-004, a floodplain ordinance text amendment. This also will be a public hearing, allowing 15 minutes for the presenters, 15 for any demonstrators. All those wishing to speak for or against this, please raise your right hand.
Do you swear on penalties of perjury that the testimony is true to the best of your knowledge? Yes.
And do we have anyone online? All right, so who wants to take the helm down there? Or tag team?
Yeah, we can take team this one. Kevin did a lot of good work with DNR and FEMA, coordinating reviews between the governmental agencies to prepare this draft model ordinance. So I do appreciate Kevin's work on helping us to draft this model ordinance for you guys. So I'll let maybe Kevin touch on some of the highlights of this ordinance that we have proposed for you.
Okay, I don't know if I necessarily call them highlights, but the important things that are in this change, and really there's only a couple significant changes from our existing ordinance. Big thing is in an identified floodway, we currently allow an increase of 0.15 feet with development. And I've had some talks with DNR, and I believe this directive came down from FEMA that should be 0, that there should be no change in the flood elevation after development in a floodway.
So I build a house.
Yes. So that was, and mind you, these are all required by the state for us to change. These are not anything staff came up with on our own. Far better things to look at. A couple of the other changes that would need to be noticeable is that manufactured homes would be required to be on a permanent foundation. They've added some regulations on decks, gazebos, more than just accessory structures, actually. And I think currently the way decks and gazebos are treated as accessory structures, the new code kind of gives them a little less stringent regulation, so it's not a bad thing. Talks about salvage yards and chemical storage in floodplains, which I think is a good thing to address. It talks about, and I wrote this from the staff report, storage tanks will now be considered non-residential structures. It would actually be commercial structures. So those would be a little more stringent. And there's quite a few things in there on documentation, particularly on when fill is involved. Other than that, there's a lot of tiny little changes to semantics throughout. So we've gone with a repeal and replace instead of redlining every single page.
With this, another thing we amended or touched is the glossary. We moved the definitions that deal with the model ordinance that the state and DNR and FEMA have helped us create into the actual ordinance section and out of our general glossary. That's because we might have a different definition than we do for a similar thing. With that, we did have to remove definitions from our glossary. We also amended a couple of our definitions so that they were in agreement with the model floodplain ordinance that we have here. A lot of those definitions were old floodplain definitions that have been updated. So we did modify a few of those, take some of them out of our glossary so we don't have them in multiple places. So that's another area that we looked at.
So you say that manufactured homes have to be on a permanent foundation, just no more block and attachment have to be on a slab now, is that what you're saying?
That is, if it's in a floodplain,
If
yes.
it's not floodplain, yes.
So I guess, since there's no one to speak against, go ahead and close the
Oh,
public hearing. That's fine. Anyone else have any other questions or comments or thoughts?
Seems like the right thing to do if we need to comply with state and FEMA requirements.
Yeah, sir. That's what Tana, so after, I really like that the staff recommends favorable recommendation. Your own thing to draft that. No one else has anything. There's been a motion prepared. Oh, wait, you.
Yeah, because this is a text amendment like a zoning map change, you do have to pay reasonable regard to the statutory criteria in making the recommendation for the text change, which is 1, the comprehensive plan, 2, the current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district, 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted, or the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction of Greenwood, and 5, responsible development and growth.
Now we'll entertain a motion. Sorry, I forgot that.
Well, in reference to what Sean just said and UDO text amendment repeal and replace flood hazardous overlay district docket PC 2023-004. I move the petition to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance in Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended. Chapter 10 to repeal current section 10-02-30 flood hazard overlay district and replace it with section 10-02-31 flood hazard overlay district to update the overlay district to reflect the most current DNR and FEMA requirements set forth herein. Receive a favorable recommendation from this commission to the Greenwood Common Council and the same certified to the Greenwood Common Council in the form presented.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Walker, second by Monica. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? The motion carries 7-0. Any new business from the floor?
None.
Announcements, I guess one is the BZA learned tonight it desperately needs a fifth member, so be thinking about if you would like to serve as the planning commission appoints that fifth member. Meets, as everyone knows, right before this, so
Paid position?
I don't know if there's any specific requirements.
We'll double check to make sure, some of these are, you have to make sure that they're not in the same political party, so we'll take a look at them if someone's interested.
Do a business the 13th.
Yes, we do.
All right, then. I don't have anything else, so
Move to adjourn.
you're adjourned.
Go by Dave or Dave.